from mafia-controlled streets to the NFL, ultimately becoming a successful doctor. But this is the title of my book. I'm out on a mini book tour starting in Ohio, and then we're going to branch out from there. Danny Green was the president of the Longshoremen, and at that time he was part of the Italian mob in my neighborhood, and he wanted to take over the Teamsters. Well, the Italian mob told him, no, sorry, Danny, that's our territory. You're not taking over the Teamsters. We control that. Well, picture to yourself, if Danny had controlled the Longshoremen, the Dock Workers Union, and controlled the Teamsters, nothing, and let me repeat that again, so you get a full picture. At the age of 34 and at the age of 35, nothing in this country would have moved without Danny's say-so. So obviously you can see why war broke out between Danny and the Italian mob who controlled the Teamsters. Danny wanted the Teamsters. He wanted to be controlling the truck drivers union. So this is what prompted me to write the book. This is a picture of Peter Miller. He is the CEO of Global Lions. I'm very proud to say we have associated ourselves with Peter Miller. Peter is responsible for taking the book Helter Skelter and turning it into a movie. He also is responsible for taking John Grissom's book, The Firm, and turning it into a movie. And now a lot of you are saying to yourselves, Self, what is so unusual about Ken's story? There's nothing unique there. There are a lot of kids that have come out of tough neighborhoods and have gone on to do well. Well, how many of you here, by a show of hands, would believe me if I told you I only played one, let me repeat that, one game my whole high school career? How many of you would believe if I told you that? Well, all of you are wrong. You're all wrong. I only played one high school game my whole high school career. And here's the reason why. This is one of the guys out of my high school. Out of Cleveland St. Joe, where I graduated from, there are 25 of us that have played in the NFL. Mike Golick is one of them. Anybody know this guy? Desmond Howard. MVP Super Bowl 36, I think it was, Heisman Trophy winner. He's also out of my high school. And this is some of the talent that came out of Cleveland St. Joe's when I was there. Then, of course, I'm sitting in my car one night coming home from a dance from St. Joe's, and we've got our St. Joe hoods on. Well, all the windows in the car as we were stopped at a red light start caving in because tire irons and chains were pounding in the windows. We were thought to be another gang invading into a Collinwood neighborhood from another gang. And then, of course, the other adversity is you finally get to high school and you know this is your only way out of Collinwood to earn a football scholarship, and St. Joe's is the only place to do it because they're producing great player after great player. And then you're told by the coaches you're too short, you're too small, you're too stupid, you're too something. Well, I never, ever played but one game, as I told you, for all those reasons, which takes me to the John Shinsky story. Some of you remember Joe DeLaMalleur, the great guard that played with the Buffalo Bills and played with the Cleveland Browns. When he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, they asked him, who was the toughest guy you ever had to block? And Joe, in a New York nanosecond, said, John Shinsky, without a doubt. Well, all the reporters are standing around, who the blankety blank is John Shinsky? Well, let me tell you who John Shinsky was. John Shinsky was out of the Mayfield gang. Rumor has it, he killed a guy in self-defense, had been attacked by a crowbar, a swinging kid, and he turned around and killed the kid with the same crowbar that he was attacked by. John was a year ahead of me at St. Joe's. And as the scab quarterback my junior year, running the other team's offensive plays, all I did was get beat up night after night after night. And John is the reason I was getting beat up. Guy was just one heck of a football player. And had he not blown out his knees, we'd have number 26 that would have made it to the NFL out of Cleveland St. Joe's. So that is the John Shinsky story. But let me get to the better part of my adversities, and that is dealing with the Cleveland Mafia. Here is a picture with the Angelo brothers, Danny Green in the middle there. We had James Licavoli, we had Shonda Burns, and Jackie Presser, who was the head of the Teamsters. Do you see a connection here, folks? Teamsters and the mob, maybe? No? Get together with me and I'll teach you that keen sense of the obvious I have. But here are the folks that I had to deal with. And these are the folks that were in the neighborhood that would come watch our Little League games and were controlling everything. And it's amazing. The neighborhood policed itself for the most part. We really, other than those few exceptions I told you about, we didn't have too much trouble. The mob controlled the whole neighborhood for the most part. Is that you've got to get off the couch and you've got to do something. To have dreams, to sit and listen to inspirational speakers such as myself, as great as I am, that isn't going to do it unless you're like Nike. Just do it. Get off the couch and go do something. And take small steps. If you're looking to run a marathon, you start walking. And then at the end, you start running maybe the last 20 yards to your front door. And then you make it 40 yards to your front door. And you keep adding and making small successes. And those small successes turn into small goals, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, the last thing, let me finish with this. This is the Ron Jaworski story. Anybody hear of Ron Jaworski? Well, I told you I played one game in high school. My second game that I ever played was my junior year, the first game. It was against Ron Jaworski, who played at Youngstown State. So this is the second game I've ever played as a quarterback, and it's against Ron Jaworski. Well, every scout, because Ron was the #1 draft pick that following year. He was a senior, I was a junior at the University of Dayton. Every scout was there. Well, after the game, every scout was in my locker room talking to me. So you never know. You've got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. You never know. And the Dolphins scout was there, Sil Carnaccione. I can remember when I signed with the Dolphins, I said, Sil, what is it that made you in? He said, I saw the game where you played against Ron Jaworski. And ever since then, I was hooked. So you just never know where your break is going to happen. Call it fate, call it luck, or call it the will of God. I am a religious man, but call it whatever you want. Sometimes you need a higher power to get things done where you want to go.